with Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, Democratic candidate for governor in New Jersey's race for governor, primary election day coming up in June. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you've been mayor of Jersey City since 2013.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to run for governor now?
Look, I think being a mayor and seeing firsthand the challenges around local government because of the relationship with Trenton, how that impacts property taxes, the livability of New Jersey, all related to obstacles in Trenton. So I decided to jump in because I'm concerned about whether this is going to stay a livable place for my family, for me, for your family. Our campaign is different in the sense that there's no fallback position. All the other candidates, Cheryl and Gottheimer and Sweeney and Baraka, have political offices that they've either, curated to hold on to or will have if this doesn't work out. For me, it's all, everything in the middle for this because I believe that we're running to change New Jersey. So it's a different type of campaign and it's why we started.
You talk about it being a different campaign, very policy driven.
Yep.
One of the number one issues is always the affordability issue.
Yes.
What realistically do you think you can do to address affordability? Because for as long as anybody's, paid attention in New Jersey, it is too expensive.
It's an expensive place to live. I think that you need to get that under control. There's a lot that you could do as the governor. I think that on the tax side, you got to think about the corruption tax that we pay. You got to think about the school funding formula, be willing to lean into that.
People don't even understand the school funding formula.
Look,
that's an issue.
It hasn't been adjusted since 2008. And we were having a conversation earlier about special education. That component of the funding was supposed to be revamped in 2008, 2009, and they just never did it. And so that's a big driver of property taxes. I think Trenton does a lot of unfunded mandates, things that sound good that they deliver to the municipalities. That needs to change. And then when you talk about affordability, housing supply is a big part of that as well. If there's not enough houses, supply and demand pushes up prices and people stretch into something that they can't necessarily afford. And you need to tackle it from that side as well.
Yeah, well, on the topic of of housing and being affordable, there's the affordable housing issue, the Mount Laurel decision that said each town must provide a certain amount of affordable housing. A lot of urban areas, they're happy to be able to provide these facilities for affordable housing, but a lot of the smaller municipalities are saying we don't have the ability to support that. Then the impact on the infrastructure, on the schools, we don't have the space, and the state is coming in saying we've got to provide X amount of units. Where do you stand on the affordable housing?
I think you touched on something really important. There's a difference, a nuanced difference between affordable housing on people, how they view it, and housing that is affordable, right? There's two different things.
Those are two different things. Right.
With regards to affordable housing and the increase in that, we've outlined a lot of details on how we could change the policy to make it less burdensome for municipalities. When Republicans go out and they say, we're going to change the way this is and you're not going to have to do it, it's pandering and not true. I mean, the reality is there's 30, 40 years of court cases in history here, Republicans and Democratic governors, that indicate that everybody's going to have an obligation. You could make that obligation easier. So we've outlined around transparency, rewards from Trenton, changing the incentives, how we can make more affordable housing constructed without impacting the community. I think there's a lot you can do on that. And then housing that is affordable, totally different conversation. I think a lot of that has to do with the EDA grants and the supply and how we look at transit-oriented developments and how we incentivize that. And there's a lot that you could do that's less intrusive to some of the municipalities.
EDA, the Economic Development Authority, which also kind of leads into another topic that I would love to discuss, and that is the cost of doing business in New Jersey. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority is New Jersey's Bank for Business. They work with a lot of urban areas, a lot of areas to help build projects, bring in businesses. But when it comes to small businesses, people don't always know these resources are available. And they don't realize the things that they can tap into. And again, even with some of the bigger companies, they're saying, you know what, it's cheaper to go across the river to Pennsylvania. What would you do as governor to address that?
It's good. You should run for governor. You got a good grasp on it.
Thank you.
It is. I think the EDA has prioritized large corporations, right? I think that's fair to say. And I talk a lot about the regional economy with New York and the regional transportation structure with New York because, we could be fighting them constantly, or we could acknowledge the fact that we're intertwined. They're intertwined to our success, and we're intertwined to their success. So when New Jersey's approach to job creation is poaching jobs solely away from New York, JP Morgan moving a mile or Goldman Sachs moving across the river, it's counterproductive in the sense that it's a race to zero, it's a lot of subsidies, and it's not really a job creator, right? Because those are existing jobs. So what we've tried to outline is a policy that focuses on small entrepreneurs, on tax credits around that, and people that dream and have small businesses, and how do you incentivize them to further grow that? Because that's the real job creation. So I think that the opportunity for the EDA to look at things differently, and I understand that as a mayor dealing with a lot of small businesses, is a different perspective that I'll bring to Trenton.
Okay. As a mayor, Jersey City, immigration.
Yes.
That is something that is a very, very passionate subject when people
Today,
talk about
sure.
that. You have gone on the record being very much in favor of the Immigration Trust Act and
Yes.
protecting immigrants. President Trump has made it clear that people who are here illegally, if they have committed crimes, that they are, they're on notice that he is going to take action. You live in Jersey City where you're saying, whoa, 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 not so fast.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think to some degree you do have that right. I mean, a couple things to kind of highlight on that is the sense that, number one, Jersey City is the single most diverse city in the country. It is a place that we've driven down crime, we've grown small business, largely because of the relationships in the community and trust that we've built. Trust is an important part of that conversation. Everybody agrees that your criminals, your rapists, your murderers, your pedophiles, they shouldn't be here if they're here illegally. Everybody agrees with that. I don't think a Democrat will disagree with that. If a Democrat would say that that's not where they are, then I got a problem with them too. But we're all entitled to due process. And I think the way ICE has approached a lot of these immigration conversations is storming into places without warrants, without any sort of respect for the Constitution. And I think that's where people like me draw a line saying that there needs to be protections and we should be conscious of that. And that's what's important ultimately.
And is that happening? Is the media driving that narrative? What is the reality between what is actually really happening and what you're seeing in a city like Jersey City? I know you can't speak for all of these areas, but what can you say about Jersey City?
I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Homan, who was the guy doing the ICE raids, he was the Trump appointee, right? And he's kind of the point on this. I was watching an interview with him. I think it was on Fox. And he commented on a raid that they recently did where they got 100 plus illegal, maybe yesterday, it was on yesterday, 100 plus undocumented people, and then he says most of which are criminals, right? And the key word there is most, okay? Most, right? And he kind of just glossed over that and continued, right? And the question is, what kind of criminals, and the ones that aren't criminals, what are we doing as far as due process and rights that those people have? I think everybody acknowledges that the borders need to be tighter, no issue with that. But I think we need to be thoughtful about the people that are here and how do we deal with people in a humane way. And I don't think that the policy today is really accomplishing that.
Yeah, so do you think that media or partisan politics are on both sides of the aisle escalating?
I think that's clearly where we're headed, unfortunately. I think that, there is a media depiction of the person that ICE is arresting today that is always a dark-skinned, generally South American type of person with ICE around them, and then they put the logo saying this person is a criminal because of XYZ. And I'm sure some of that stuff exists, but there's also other people that they're rounding up or violating their due process or storming into their homes that don't deserve that, right? That aren't criminals. Maybe some of them aren't even there undocumented. We've seen reports of that. I had one personally. So I think there's a fine line here. We need to be careful. And I think that people should think about the fact that how would they feel if ICE showed up at their door with 15, 20 people saying they know somebody is in the house and stormed in with no warrants, and whether they found somebody or didn't find somebody, how would they feel about that violation of their personal rights,
Right.
So it's something to think about.
I want to talk a little bit also about another huge issue that got all the Democrats in the debate that we hosted talking, and they agreed upon, and that's New Jersey Transit.
Yeah.
The system is broken. Our transportation trust fund, our roads, bridges, tunnels are in desperate need of repair. New Jersey Transit is what everybody gave them an F. What would you do to fix that?
Everybody agreed at the debate, but everybody had different perspectives. Some of them just gave you platitudes and said, we're going to fix it, we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. Some gave ridiculous answers on how they're going to fix it. Like I think the Congresswoman Cheryl talked about advertising as a solution. I mean, that's on the fringe. That's not a real solution ultimately. That's silly. I think that we're the only ones that gave a concrete answer on here's what we're going to do to fix it. And the reason that I could do that is we've been more involved in transportation as the mayor of Jersey City than any municipality in the state. We're in the ferry business, we're in the bike share business, we're in the microtransit business, the largest in the country we built. So what would I do? That's the biggest question there. So number one is I would do in the first 30 days redo the corporate business tax that funds New Jersey Transit in perpetuity. So it's only for 5 years now. You can't bond against it. You need to be able to bond against it because you need to repair some of these stations, make them cleaner, safer, modernize them, and that's the only way to do that. So that's number one. Number two is we would cancel the Turnpike Widening Project that's in Jersey City and Hudson County. It's an $11 billion project that everybody in New Jersey pays for. And it's silly in the sense that it doesn't matter if you widen the turnpike to 45 lanes, the Holland Tunnel is still 2 lanes, so you still got the bottleneck there. It's ridiculous. So we would reallocate that to expansion of light rail, particularly in South Jersey and Bergen County. I think that's really important to move people around a densely populated state. Third thing we would do is really focus on the bus privatization, which New Jersey Transit does. I've talked a lot about this. It's counterintuitive to the interests of people trying to move around the state. Buses need to be clean, reliable, and safe, and the way to do that is then bring them back in New Jersey Transit. Fourth, I mean, I could keep going, the PATH stations and the PATH infrastructure, we need to bring that back into New Jersey and take that away from the Port Authority. It's a big economic driver and a big opportunity for growth for the state, and the only way you're going to achieve that is not having it as this neglected stepchild of the Port Authority. So there's a lot you could do. I think you need concrete steps, and I think being a mayor gives us kind of familiarity with that.
I mean, New Jersey, very congested state. As is the Democratic field running for governor. 6 candidates. You've got 2 members of Congress, 2 mayors, a former state Senate president. What separates you from the rest of the pack? What do you want voters to know about who you are? And they may not, Jersey City might know who you are. You're a dad. You served in the military.
You're doing great.
Right. What separates you?
Look, I think on background, my background is different as it relates to taking on challenges, whether it's leaving a high-paying job after 9/11 on Wall Street to enlist in the Marine Corps, running against the political establishment in 2005 and 2013, Jersey City being a Renaissance story. All those things are positive indicators. But what I'd like people to take away from my candidacy that's different is they're not going to come away saying he's the greatest speaker. You know, they're not going to come away saying he's got the political machine behind him. They're going to say that he is more substantive on policy, could clearly articulate a vision that's better and clearer than any of the other candidates. And I believe that that's true what he said, and it's capable of being accomplished. And that's different than any of the others. I mean, we're in a dangerous time in New Jersey, and I think that's what people want. And so we have a track record and a vision. I don't think any of the others have either of those together.
We have a little bit more time left. Do you want to share the story of how 9/11 shaped?
You
were on Wall Street.
I was on Wall Street. I was working at Goldman Sachs. I was in the analyst program. So out of college, it's a very prestigious thing to get. You know, Corzine and Phil Murphy were senior people at that investment bank, but they were there for 20, 30 years. I was on a trajectory that maybe I could have been there 20 or 30 years, make a lot of money as a 22-year-old there. I was 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center when 9/11 happened. You could feel the building shake. And what I say often is, I mean, everybody who's watching this probably had a 9/11 moment and recalibrated their life. For me, it made me think about what I wanted to do. And I went to my manager at Goldman, said I would leave and enlist in the Marine Corps. They thought it was crazy because people don't do that generally. But I thought at the time it was a partial payment for citizenship. I felt like coming from a family of immigrants, my family, Holocaust survivors, came to this country with really nothing and just kind of a dream, that I felt that was the moment for kind of a debt owed. I went to Paris Island, then out to Iraq with the first wave of troops, and then came back to Jersey City, and the mayor at the time slowly got me involved in this. But I'm thankful for a lot of what this country gave me, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to serve.
If people want to find out more about your story, about the policies, where you stand on the issues we've tried to touch on as much as possible, where can they go for more information?
StevenFulop.com. So it doesn't get any easier than that. We're building a grassroots organization, and the campaign's in a good place, and we could use all the help that anybody's willing to offer.
Steve Fulop, Mayor of Jersey City,
you.
Democratic candidate for governor. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
We
That was
really
great.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.